Hey everybody, welcome to our Q&A session. Hopefully you can see and hear me fine. Me and Chanelle today are going through basically 12 common questions that people ask in relation to web design and social media. At the end though, we are going to have a Q&A. If you want to ask questions through Zoom, at the end, if we have enough time, we will answer a few questions as well. So on your phone, you should be able to, or on your laptop, you should be able to see down the bottom, there's a Q&A button you can click on and you can ask questions through that. This is our first time using Zoom webinars, so we're as new to it as you will be. But if you want to put some questions in there as we go, we'll answer them at the end if we have time. We want to try and keep it within an hour. So just a quick introduction. I'm Matt from Reid Web Design, based in Pukekohe, currently based at home. If you don't know me, I set up my web design business back in 2007. And since then, we've grown to around 750 websites we look after throughout New Zealand. And I have a team of 8 designers, developers, and yeah, we work day to day on building websites and maintaining websites for our clients. So a lot of the questions that I will answer today, most of them are quite commonly asked. But if there's anything you aren't sure of, or if there's anything that I don't get around to answering today, you can obviously email me and I can get some answers or information to you through that. But I'll pass over to Chanelle and she can introduce herself and she can start with the first question.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As Matt said, this is our first time, so please be kind. So my name's Chanelle Reid and my business is Ice Marketing. So I'm really passionate about marketing strategy and obviously about social media marketing, which is what we're going to focus on today, because obviously with the current times we're in at the moment, being online is more vital than ever. So the questions I'm covering, they aren't tactical. We're not going to show you like how to add a post or something along those lines. This is more covering off practical information that you can use to improve your marketing. Okay, so the first question I have here is, which is the best platform for my business to use? So this is a really common one and it's really important. So to start off, I've got a couple of key facts here. So the first is the users that are currently on these platforms. So these platforms have grown massively since even when Matt would have started with his web design business back in when? 2012?
2012 properly, yeah.
Yeah. So these platforms have grown hugely, which means the use and the way we use them has grown massively as well. So Facebook currently has 2.5 billion users. Instagram is sitting over 1 billion, it's about 1.1. And LinkedIn is a little bit behind them at about 660 million. So those are the core platforms. There are heaps, absolutely heaps of others. And again, we don't have time to go into everything today, but just touching on some of those core ones. So the most important thing you need to consider when choosing what platform for your business is to consider who your ideal clients are, because obviously that is who you're trying to talk to. So if your ideal client is perhaps a CEO, they're going to be on LinkedIn more likely. And if you're busy marketing crazily to them on Instagram, that doesn't work, it doesn't line up. So the first decision to look at when deciding what platform to use is who the ideal client is. And you have to really know who they are. You have to know as much as you can about them to know where they're going to spend their time. So the other thing to consider is whether you are going to manage the social media platform yourself and where you're most comfortable. So some people are really comfortable on video, not me, but some people are really comfortable on video, or others are really comfortable with perhaps the written word, or they're really clever with photography. So you need to consider what platform is designed to utilize this better. So obviously written is great on Facebook, and so is video, but Instagram is fantastic, video, imagery. So that's another thing to consider, is trying to line up where your skill set is and where you're most comfortable alongside which platform best suits your client. And it's important too, there can be a lot of pressure to do a lot of different platforms. You need to really make sure you're going to do them well. So if you don't have the time to put into doing 2, 3, 4 different platforms, just do one and do it really well. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to think that you have to show up here, there and everywhere. It's more important that where you are, you're doing a good job, that you've chosen the platform that where your client is most likely to be. So they may potentially more likely to be on 2 or 3 platforms, but you've chosen the one that's probably the highest priority to them or highest use. And that's where you're spending your time. So don't sort of buy too much into the pressure of having to be everywhere. If you do have the time and the skill set and the ability to do this, then yes, of course, that's an added bonus and you will get a lot of value out of that. So I think that's me covering question 1. I'm going to hand back to Matt and
Cool.
he can take on the next question.
Awesome, thank you. So my first question today is, should I put my photo, like my photo or my team's photo, on my website? And the simple answer is ideally yes, you should put your photo on your website. And that usually is like, you definitely should do that, especially if you're in a business or an industry where you're dealing with people a lot. So if you're a teacher or a consultant, a lawyer, a beauty therapist, for example, it's good to have a photo of you or your team on that website so that people, when they are researching, you know, they can look and see who they're going to be dealing with. They feel comfortable and trustworthy of you. If there's no photo, or it's a stock photo of someone over in America or somewhere random that they can tell it's fake and it's not you, then it's just a little less trustworthy. So people are going to go, oh, I like this person better who's actually got their photo on their website. So you want to make sure that you have your photo on your website. People buy from people. You know, people are buying other people rather than the actual products and services. You buy into someone, you're not going to buy from someone you don't like. So put a nice photo of your team on there. And another little quick tip when you do that is, if you've got a lot of staff, if you've got a big team behind you, have individual photos of each team member rather than combining them all into one. Because over the years, I've had a lot of clients who do group photos, and then 5 years later, half the photos photoshopped out and there's just nothing left. There's like a couple of people there, or it's totally changed. So to save yourself a bit of cost and updating your staff all the time, just have individual photos. And yeah, but ideally, I know most people don't like to do it. A lot of my staff don't like to do it, but we do put our photos up on our website if you go and have a look. So just get a good photo, get a good photographer to come and take a photo and put it up on your website, put it on your social media as well, and give yourself that presence. Anyway, moving on to Chanelle's next question.
That's a good point though, what you said about not doing a group, or not just having a group photo, that if staff are leaving, if you've got higher attrition, that's a really good point. Yeah. Okay, so my next question, how do we keep coming up with fresh content ideas for our social media page? Now this is a huge one, and this is what stops a lot of people actually consistently posting content, because it's this, you sort of sit there going, well, what am I going to talk about today? So there's a couple of really key points to think about here. One thing you have to remember is that people don't know what they don't know, and you know your business really, really well. So sometimes you have to go back to real basics and put up stuff that you think might be obvious to other people, or you think you've talked about too much, or that you think that they just should know, and people don't, because you got to remember, you and your business, you're very focused on it. It's your world. Everyone else has their own world going on. So they do miss and forget things and not necessarily know things or look for things. So there's a lot of content that I think gets overlooked from the fact that we as business owners make some assumptions and sort of don't put out there necessarily some of the simplified stuff. We overcomplicate it a little bit. So that's one point to think about. And another great way to look at creating content is writing down 10 questions. So the questions you get asked all the time, kind of like what we're doing here. These are questions we get asked all the time, and this can be turned into content. So write down 10 questions and answer them. And these questions honestly can be so super simple, but they're what people are looking for. They're what they want the answers to. That's why you get asked them all the time. So this can be anything from how do I create this? How do I do my hair a particular way? Matt's question of should I put photos on a website? To some people that might be really obvious, but it is something that gets asked a lot. So you can turn this into all sorts of different content. So you could do a written piece to answer a question. You can turn it into a short video if you're comfortable on video. You can use images to explain it. You can have sort of animation graphics. There's endless ways to present that piece of content. but it's just pulling it out. So it's just so simple as 10 questions, answer them, create content from that. Once you've done that, repeat the process. Another way is to write some articles. So you could write some full, more detailed articles that potentially would be more like blog posts or something that might go in a magazine or a newsletter, and break that down into content. So that could make up multiple content pieces. You can also actually reach out to your own customers. They can provide you amazing content. So if you're selling product, often your customers are obviously using it in some way or form. For example, thinking of my background with equestrian, there is endless content out there with people using the products they've purchased. So you can get these great photos of people competing their horses, for example, wearing some of the product they bought from you. People love generally to see themselves on social media, especially through businesses or being promoted in some way. So there's a huge amount of content that sits within your own customers through testimonials, through perhaps them showing, using that product in a particular way, reviews. So there's all sorts of ways to gather content from your customers. So don't forget that. Actually go to them and get some content from them. And most of them will absolutely love it. They'll see it as another way to connect with you, and also as, what's the word I want? It sort of builds loyalty as well, and it's quite cool for them to see themselves. And the other side of it is collaboration. So you could work with other businesses to create content. So this could include having them create some newsletter posts for you, for example, or sharing different content.
Yeah, like if you're a builder, for example, or you might sell bathroom wear, for example, you might get your supplier, one of your product suppliers, to give you information that you could pull out and use in your content.
Yep, absolutely. And even what Matt and I are doing right here is collaboration. So as our businesses are obviously have a lot of synergy, and we're working together to share that content and cross-purpose the content. So collaboration is huge, and especially in a time like this, other businesses and other colleagues and people that you work with and connect with would really value you reaching out to them and sharing each other's networks and cross-purposing information. So don't underestimate collaboration. And final tip is you can access things like social media planning calendars. There are a lot of generic ones available now that you can purchase online. You've probably seen the ads everywhere. They're all through social media. Or you can get tailored ones created for your business. So that can take the thinking out of it for you. So you're literally picking up this calendar and just working through. So you create the content, but you don't have to think about what piece of content there is to create today. And back over to you.
Thank you. One of the, which Chanelle already knows about, but one of the websites you can use to help get ideas on what content you can create is a website called Answer the Public. So answerthepublic.com. It's got a weird video of an old guy on it. It's pretty funny. Anyway, you'll know when you get to it, you'll know what I mean. But anyway, you can put in there a industry or a niche or a service, and basically you'll see questions come up from what they analyze that people on the web search for. So if I search, for example, real estate, that's it. If I search for real estate, basically Answer the Public has a system that can see what most people are searching globally and what the most common questions people are asking for. So if someone's searching to buy a new car, it might be, how much does insurance cost for this car? Where do I fix my car? It asks all the common questions that people are asking. If it's insurance, it could be, what is the average premium? That's a piece of content you can write on. Does third-party insurance cover theft, for example? That's another common question that you could write an article on or post onto your social media, a response into that piece of content. So go to that website after this and just search your sort of service, and you'll see a lot of questions come up that you can pull out and help to write, use to write content with. Is that right?
Yeah, awesome.
Cool, okay. My next question, and also thanks to anyone else who's joined since we started, we do have a Q&A button at the bottom of the app or on your computer where you can ask questions that if we have time at the end we'll be able to answer. But getting on to my next question, SEO, what is it? How does it work? And a key tip. So SEO is basically search engine optimization. That's what the term means. And essentially you can look at it as optimizing your website, changing it, evolving it, trying to improve it so that you can come up higher in search engine results. So Google, for example, Bing, if your website's well optimized, if it's SEO optimized, you're going to come up higher in search results. So if you're in an industry that's very busy, I guess, what's the right word for it, in demand, or lots of competition, that's a competitive, then you're going to find it's going to be hard if you're starting out to get your website up to the top, or at least even on the first page. So SEO is basically optimizing your website to try and get it up the list more, get it up onto that first page so people can find it. And there's lots of ways as to how Google, for example, analyzes and determines who is going to come up in what position. If you've got a real basic website, if you've got a real old website, if you've got a website that's not mobile friendly, it's not secure, you're going to find your website's way down the list. You'll find companies that have a blog, lots of content, they have a good structure, they have a well-built website. The people that have the content and the structure are going to be higher up on the list. And also people who have websites around for a long time. You'll sometimes find an old website, a very good old website, if there's such a term, still ranking quite well. So it's obviously important that you have good content and good keywords. So at the end of the day, people say to me, they say, Matt, how do I come up number one on Google, or what should I do, or what's the number one thing to do? There isn't really one thing to do. There's lots of things to do. Make sure your site's mobile friendly. Make sure it's got the little green HTTPS padlock in the top left corner of the screen, little security padlock. Make sure it's mobile friendly. I've said that. Make sure the content's well structured. Make sure your images have descriptions on them. I just don't want to complicate this too much, but make sure your images have what is called an alt tag, ALT. It's basically telling Google what that image is, what it is a picture of, because Google's robots or crawlers, when they scan through your website, they see the website only as text. So your website's only as good really, or descriptive, as the text that's on your website. So you never really want a website that's all images. You want a good balance of text, so Google understands it. And also you want to make sure all your images have descriptions on them as well. So if you are, I always use the builder analogy, if you are a builder, you might have a nice picture of a house with weatherboards. Your alt tag on that image should be something like Papakura architecturally designed home with weatherboards, so that people in that area who might search weatherboard homes, Google knows, oh yeah, Matt's building company's website, he's got a picture of a weatherboard home in Papakura. We'll give him a better ranking. That's very vague, but in some essence, that sort of has an effect on your SEO with everything else. So my number one takeaway for you guys at the end of the day is simply to ideally have good content on each page, ideally 500 words. And furthermore from that, make sure it's well structured so that it's easy for your customers to look at. Because when I say 500 words, we don't want to, read a novel. We want it to be nicely laid out with images. So keeping that sort of structure and, balancing out the images with the text. And sorry to drag it on, one more thing that I did want to say before it goes from the top of my head, yes, is structuring content like a pyramid. So most people, and you're possibly the same watching this, you just want the short and sweet. You just want to know the basics when you hit that page. So in order to keep Google happy, so we've got our 600 words, 500 words, and the customer not overburdened with too much text to read through, at the top of the page, have a nice banner, have a headline, a few bullet points, and then give us a call, buy now, get a quote. Simple. If people scroll down the page, that's where you have the other 450 words. People who obviously want to find more will go scrolling. So put your stuff down the page further. So we build it out like a pyramid. As you go down the page, it gets more detailed. And that's the way to keep the customer happy and not overburdened and going, oh, too much information, see you later, but also keeping Google happy as well. So that's SEO in a nutshell.
That is SEO in a nutshell. Well done. It's quite, obviously, as you can see, it's a hugely complicated, in-depth subject that Matt has a huge amount of knowledge on. So that was a good summary.
Thank you.
Okay, so best types of posts, content to increase engagement and following. So this comes back to, once again, knowing who your ideal client is. So obviously, if you're creating this amazing content, but it appeals hugely to people that are actually never going to buy your product or service, that's not going to achieve what you want. Okay, that's not going to increase your engagement. It's not going to increase your following. So I'm going to keep probably coming back to this quite a lot, but it is so important that you know who your ideal client is, and you need to be able to talk to them as if you're talking about a friend. So not just female, 40 to 60s, lives in Upper North Island. Like, that's too broad. It's not going to create the sort of content that's actually going to bring your followers and customers actually into your page and really actually getting engaged with your content. The other thing you really want to think about is answering questions, so which we already touched on before, and it sort of pulls back to what Matt's talking about with the information that you're creating, and again back to that website, which is super valuable. So answer questions. So people are going to engage with things that actually help them. It's got to actually give them information, and that also increases their connection to you. So if you've put yourself in a bit of an expert position and you're providing them with information, the connection that you're building with them and a bit of loyalty, and that is all really valuable too, and that increases engagement as well, and as well as following. So you want to solve problems, you want to answer questions, and you need to be really clear that it's content that your ideal client is interested in, not necessarily what you're interested in. So it can be a little tricky sometimes to sort of take yourself out of the equation when you're creating content. So you might have a particular tone perhaps in the way you write things or the way you sort of put things across, but that isn't actually going to appeal or work for your ideal client base. So you have to be very careful to take yourself out of it and put it across in a way that is what they are going to want to see, what they are going to want to hear, what's going to resonate with them. So a big takeaway is to create content for your followers, not for yourself. And that might sound obvious, but a lot of people make that mistake. And it's hard because you are the one creating the content. So you've sort of got to take yourself out of that equation, which sometimes isn't easy to do. It's also really important that you've got a level of vulnerability to it. Sometimes people will sit there for hours with this post that they just can't get perfect. They just don't want to put it out there because it's just not right. It's not perfect. That's a massive waste of your time, but also you don't have to worry so much about that. You'll find that the pages that you probably follow or the influencers or people that you engage with the most are actually the ones that show a bit of vulnerability. They're not perfect. They're relatable. They put things out there that are honest and sometimes don't even put themselves in a particularly good light. So you don't have to perfection is not something you want here. In saying that, you still have to be careful, obviously, with, you don't really want stuff out there that's full of spelling mistakes or inappropriate images or, maybe stay away from politics most of the time. It can get you into trouble. But definitely show a level of vulnerability. You've got to put your personality across. And then we come back to things like anything with a face in it always gets better engagement. Always. So if you're continuously posting product photos and you're never putting a person to it, it just does not get engagement. People don't buy into that. People like to see people. And the other thing to think about too with increasing engagement and following is obviously your hashtags on Instagram. So you can look up, there's websites where you can look up what's most trending as far as hashtags related to your particular industry. But make sure you are tailoring them too. You want to sort of look at what's working best within your industry, and then also adding in some that are particularly tailored to either your particular region or the brand you're posting. And the whole point with social media is obviously to be social. So, create your content, but also engage with other people's content, comment on things, keep things moving and flowing. And in 2020, and obviously it's been like that for the last couple of years, last year or so, video is obviously massive. So if you're comfortable getting in front of the camera, doing some short video clips, then absolutely do that. If you follow any of Matt's stuff, you'll see he's in front of the camera all the time. And it works really well. It's a great way of getting yourself across. Again, it puts a face to things, and video content generally ranks higher, as well as being seen with Facebook and things like that.
Yeah.
And Facebook Live is pretty valuable too.
I think Facebook Live gets you more attention than a normal video.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets picked up. Yeah.
So I've done one Facebook Live. I need to do more, but that's a good way to push yourself out to more people.
Yeah, you'll get more organic reach on Facebook Live versus because organic reach on Facebook is appalling now, but you'll get more organic reach on Facebook Live versus posting a video after the fact. So again, if you're confident on video, absolutely go for it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just post it.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll see mine aren't perfect. Thanks for the comment, Richard. And also, John, we've got your question here as well as Katrina's, I believe it was. So we'll get to those at the end. Moving on, so we're keeping time. My next question is, what is remarketing and how does it work? So remarketing is part of the digital marketing side of things, which essentially is advertising online. So remarketing, it's sometimes I struggle to explain it, but the simplest way to put it is someone goes to your website. When they go to your website and have a look around, there's what you could call a cookie that's put onto their computer. Now, the cookie, people make out that it's a real bad thing. It's not really. It's just something that allows you, the business owner or the website owner, to show your business to that person at a later stage. So it's called remarketing because you're remarketing to them once they've left your website. So you've probably had it before, but you'll go to a website, you'll leave it, and then it can be within the next hour, or it might be a couple of days down the line, you start seeing that company popping up everywhere. Could be on a website, it could be on Facebook, could be Instagram, could be on your phone, whatever.
This is whenever people think that your computers and phones are listening to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe they still are, but yeah, essentially that's right. So
it just turns up everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns up everywhere. So you can use this in your business. You can use remarketing so that when someone visits your website, once they leave it, you can keep showing up to them just subtly on the side of the page. Oh yeah, there's that, I looked at that website the other day. The day later, oh yeah, there's that guy again. Oh, is this a sign? Maybe I should be using him. Some people think it's a sign. So it's a good way to get your business out there or your product out there, depending on what you're promoting, so that when people are looking down the line, if I want to buy a new car, it's going to take me, well, I'm pretty bad at it, but some people, it takes 30, 60, 90 days to make a decision to decide on that car. Or if they want to get their bathroom renovated, it takes them 30 days to get quotes from all these different companies and then decide. If you're a lawyer, you're wanting to buy a house, they've had a look at a conveyancer, they haven't bought a house yet, but 60 days down the line, they buy a house, and then they see you popping up still. Oh yeah, I remember them. They've been popping up all the time. Actually, I've got a contract to do tomorrow on this house I want to buy. I'll ring them up. So that's the benefit of remarketing. It's just burning, for want of a better word, your brand or your company into the mind of that person who's been to your site. Another good thing about remarketing is that it's very cheap. So if you've done Google Ads before, which is basically you search for someone and their ad comes up on Google, that's sort of the most expensivest, is that the right word? Expensivest form of advertising, my grammar's good, that you can do through Google. So you might pay, for example, $2 per click. Someone clicks your ad, it costs you $2. You want to hope that those people that are clicking on your ad are actually engaging and buying from you. Remarketing, on the other hand, a click might cost 20 cents. So it's a lot cheaper. It's 1/10 of the cost of a search click. So, if you've got 100 people come to your website in a month and they're all being shown ads, you're still not spending that much money on advertising to them. So it's a real cheap form of advertising to them. The only problem is you've still got to get that initial flow of people into your website to get the remarketing showing to them from there on. So that's the basics of remarketing for you guys. I had a few other notes here where you pay per click, which I've gone through, and yeah, it's great exposure. And another thing you can do with remarketing is do it through social media as well. So you set up what's called a pixel, you put that in your website, and if someone visits your website who is logged into Facebook, when they go to Facebook, they can start seeing your business popping up in their feed. And it could be a video content, or it could be again, if you're a builder or renovator, it could be 10 tips to, picking or deciding on the right renovator to use, or, giving people valuable information and getting them hooked in through that.
Perfect. Well, that leads really nicely, and you can probably cut back in here if you want, because the next question is advertising on social media, how it works and pros and cons. So Matt's already touched on remarketing within Facebook, for example. There are, I guess, same with, again, what Matt was already talking about. There are so many different ways you can advertise. Sorry, that's the dog. With social media as well. So again, you've got all your different platforms. They all offer advertising options, and there's different price points with that too. So, for example, most of you will have seen with your Facebook posts now, every single one has a boost post button there. And all that's going to do really is just push it out to more people, generally on your page. But you can select different parameters of who you want to see that post, and you can just set a budget to it. It's a very simple form of advertising with it, and you can just set a budget per day that you want it to sit to. So it's quite inexpensive, very straightforward to use. Not as effective really as more targeted Facebook ads, but quite a simple way, because basically with Facebook now, your organic reach is essentially nothing. So back, I think it was 2011, 2012, yeah. You had about a 26% organic reach with posts. So organic, if you're not aware, organic is unpaid basically. So you had about a 26% organic reach with posts. In 2017, it was down to 0.5%. So that would tell you that now it's down to nothing, basically. It's very, very, very small. So you can have a huge following. You can have thousands of people on your page. When you do a post, it does not go to all those people. It goes to the most minuscule percent of them organically. Obviously, that the better quality content can gain more organically. So you might have people sharing it, or people commenting on it, tagging their friends in it. So that obviously increases organic. But your other option really is only to do paid. So you need to, and there was a conference that Matt and I were in America only a couple of months ago. And one of the digital marketer there who was educating, he basically sees it now that you're either going to be the entertainment or you're going to be the ad when it comes to social media. So unless you're planning on being pretty wild and crazy and putting some very interesting content up there, which is basically like reality TV style content, you are going to need to advertise to get enough reach. So that's especially with Facebook. When it comes to Instagram, there is definitely a lot more organic options still. So stories work really, really well. Obviously Facebook has stories too, but Instagram still, has a little bit more organic opportunity. LinkedIn, again, has more organic opportunity as well. Advertising with LinkedIn does tend to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So as far as the social media platforms go, you're going to spend a lot more with LinkedIn. So again, this is another thing we could spend hours on, but it is quite specific to your business and also what you're trying to achieve, but also what you want to spend. So basically, if you want to do it yourself and you're just trying to gain a little bit more reach with your Facebook posts or things, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You could spend, $50, $100 a month and just spend a little bit of time boosting some posts, and you will see some improvement. But I think the best thing really to focus on is the quality of your content and putting it on the right platform, so it's actually going to get in front of the right people. It's obviously going to do better for you than advertising. The pros and cons to it obviously is one costs, one doesn't. So it comes down to what you want to spend. And I think too, if you've got sort of a nationwide product, you're potentially going to invest a lot more, or you've got a higher ticket product versus a small ticket product. So it really is quite personal when it comes down to deciding how you want to advertise and what you want to do. But basically, creating good quality content will save you having to spend as much, but understand that organic is becoming basically a dying form as far as social media goes. So that's where you want to get quite clever with what you're doing. But definitely tying the two together. So if you've got a good website and you've got a good social media platform working, utilizing some of these remarketing tools and things aren't going to be too expensive for you, and it's going to give you that double benefit of crossing over between the two. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that LinkedIn was one of the, obviously, like Chanelle said before, you've got to know who you're obviously selling to, who your target is. But if your target sort of audience is using LinkedIn, LinkedIn is still quite a good organic platform to use to get
with direct messaging and things like that.
Yeah, and just posting in general on LinkedIn, that gets a lot more reactions. I've done a couple in the last few months, and they definitely get more reactions than what it would on Facebook.
Yeah.
So a table from wobbling.
That's me.
There we go.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay. So the next question is, how important is it to change and update your website? And also how often should you do it? So like anything in life, I guess, you've got to put time into it to see a result and to keep getting results from it. Finances, relationships, business, if we don't put time into those things, then we obviously find out they're not working that well in most cases. So just like your website, just like that sort of stuff, it's important that you do the same on your website. Usually, like I update my website once a week, once every 2 weeks if I'm just a bit too busy. Ideally, I ask people to target, once a week. If you can even do once a month, that's fine. Like I know you guys, you're busy. You don't have time to be going on your website every day or every week in most cases, updating it, but at least try and put, one day a month into spending a couple hours on it, just putting some new content on there. So it could be something like a seasonal promotion or mentioning something about the season. For example, right now, it's a bit doom and gloom, but you could be putting a post on about COVID-19, not the same old stuff that you're being hygienic and things like that, but something more interesting. Maybe I did see something actually the other day, a picture of each of your team members working at home, smiling, put a little post up there. We're working from home. We're still up and running, working from home. So things like that, putting a banner on your website saying we're still working remotely, or where we can assist essential service businesses. We've been doing a bit of that lately. But yeah, just once a month, putting something like that on there. Another thing you can do is put testimonials on there. So if you're a service business, you're a beauty therapist, you might put a new testimonial on there. You might ask for a new testimonial. If you are a handyman or a landscaper, put a new photo up of a garden you've done, for example. Just keep that content up to date. So when people come to your site and see what you are doing, they can see that, oh yeah, that's up to date, that's relevant, rather than going there in June and seeing a Christmas banner up still, or your COVID-19 banner up still, and we're out of it hopefully by then. So it's just making sure that you keep on top of those things and just being realistic. We don't have time to be going in there every day and updating it like we ideally should be. We don't have time to do that. At least put in your calendar like once a month to do that. Me, every month personally, if you go to my website, go to my news page, you'll see I update my news on there more regularly lately. But again, it's usually been like once a month, sometimes once every 2 months. I'll just write an article. I'll just put it in my diary to write an article out. And again, my articles aren't perfect. I'm not a writer, but I'm writing content that still makes sense. You still get the gist of it. It helps my SEO and all those sorts of factors.
Yeah. That's just what I was going to say. That's a big help for SEO, isn't it? Even if it's once a month, it's still going to make a big difference.
That's right. And if you look at it's not anything to brag about really, but in the past, my website was, for the keyword or the phrase web design Auckland, I was on page 6 or 7 to 10 roughly. Now I'm most of the time on page 1, around halfway down the page towards the bottom of the page most of the time. And it's since I've been doing the blog posts and writing articles, answering the common questions like you use on social media, answering those and just pasting them in the website with a photo.
Perfect.
Cool.
You make that sound easy. Okay, so next question is dealing with negative or bad comments and how do you respond to them? So this I think is not so much of an issue with people now, but certainly earlier on when I was working with clients, it was a big issue with them with getting the online. They felt they were sort of putting themselves out there alongside the business and were worried about what would happen if people had negative responses or negative comments or negative reviews. So firstly, obviously, no one is ever going to be happy all the time. We can't please everyone. So these things are going to come up sometimes. It's really important to be transparent wherever possible. So it's not necessarily always a good idea to just rush in and delete something. It could be a really good opportunity to answer it and kind of work through the problem. Obviously, if someone is clearly just being a troll or they're not being reasonable, it's completely unfounded really what they're saying, and they're just trying to actually destroy or cause problems. Yes, delete them. You can ban them. It's really simple. You can it's just those little buttons on the comment.
3 dots, is it?
Yeah, the little 3 dots on that comment to delete it, and you can ban that user. So that tidies it up really quickly. But sometimes it's simply someone's disgruntled or there's been a misunderstanding, and it can be really good, and you can actually gain a bit more respect from your followers and other people that see that platform and those posts. If you actually answer them, especially if someone is being quite unreasonable and you're being very reasonable, and you actually clearly show potentially how the problem was dealt with and show you have dealt with it, it is better. So it's something not to rush in to, don't sort of rush in and just delete something, and don't panic. If there is an issue, if there is someone that's being negative, it's fairly simple to deal with for the most part.
Yeah.
And it is important, I think, to be transparent and just have that discussion if it's going to, you know, end up with a fairly positive result. If not, just delete it. And that's where it's important that if you are looking after your own social media platforms, that you actually have the notifications on. If you've got the apps on your phone, so you should definitely have Pages app. If you're on Facebook, if you don't have that, you can download that from the apps manager.
App Store, yep.
App Store, gosh, yeah. So Pages Manager from the App Store. Definitely make sure you've got that. Make sure your notifications are on. So if you're solely in charge of your social media platform, your notifications need to be on so that you're actually actively there to answer comments, to engage with clients, customers and followers, but also so that you're right there ready if something negative did happen. This can be obviously a positive to having a social media manager or someone else looking after it if you're not very good at being online enough. I remember I had a client a few years ago, and I was literally in Fiji, poolside with cocktail, looking, and the notification came through, and it actually was someone trying to really cause some problems for that person's business. And within minutes, we had it all gone, then banned. The client didn't even know it had happened, actually, and I don't know when they would have actually seen it if it had been left up and we weren't there to look after it. So just something to think about. If you are taking responsibility for your social media platform, you need to take responsibility for it. And it can be a bit of it's not a 9-to-5 sort of job. So you do just need to make sure you've got notifications on and you're keeping an eye on it so that you can respond and manage things if they are a little bit negative. But it's not actually that often that happens.
Cool. Excellent. So this is my last question, my pre-answered questions that I've got today, just to keep things on time. We'll try and get through the last few ones so we can do a quick Q&A. Thanks for sticking around, obviously, and listening to us talk. Now, my final question is ways to promote your website cost effectively. So I'm just going to briefly go through a few of those pointers. So linking your site through social media, making sure you're using social media to obviously keep your business in front of people, and then linking people back to your website. So if you do, for example, have a little bit of content that could be answering a common question, you've got a short snippet of it on Facebook, you could have a read more that goes back to your website, and people can look at it through there and then hopefully go, oh, what else does Matt do? I'll go look at his services. Promoting your business using MailChimp with links back to your website. So email marketing is very important. Like, the conference we went to, one of the, you could say the biggest digital marketing guys in the world, he was saying email's the new thing, even though it's the oldest thing around really. He was saying definitely start using email again. So using MailChimp, you can use that for free up to, I think it's 1,000 or 2,000 contacts.
Plenty for most,
it's plenty for most businesses, that's right. So if you've got 100 people, you can do real nice looking email marketed newsletters to them and send that through to them and link them back to your website. So it could be promoting a product or a service, and you can do it yourself. You don't have to have, for example, us actually design it for you. You can, we're happy for you to, but it's built, so MailChimp's built so you can easily design your own newsletter and put it together real simply. And if you're not sure how to do it, just go to YouTube and look up some testimonials, tutorials on how to use it. Next one is Google My Business. So I want you, after this, if you don't already have a page on Google My Business, I want you to Google My Business, and you'll see what I mean. So basically you search for something, you search for, let's say, restaurants. You'll see a map most of the time come up with businesses listed on that map. That's exactly what Google My Business is in a nutshell. You can set those up yourself for free. You can put in your address and you can put in your business name and phone number, and they'll usually send you a postcard in the mail. You put that code in and you're up on Google, and you don't have to pay a monthly fee for it. It's just a flat free setup.
That's a really important one to do. Like, absolutely do that. You
could do that after this, take you 20 minutes. It's real simple. And the other one I've got is listing your business on directories. So while most of us, probably 99% of us, really don't go on directories and look anymore, like Yellow Pages, for example, Google still likes websites that link to your website. So if your business is listed on social media, if your business is listed on a directory and it comes back to your website, it has a button clicking back to your website. In most cases, that button can help obviously bring traffic to your website, but it can also help your SEO by creating what's called a backlink. And most of the directories that you can sign up on for free, because we obviously just want to use free ones, will have a link back to your website, which can help you out. One that I have looked at is called kiwidirectory.co.nz. I believe it's free, so you can go there and set up a listing on there. If you guys remember Finder, websites like Finder and NZ Business Directory, there's those different directories that we don't really use nowadays, but that's what I'm referring to basically, is putting your business onto those directories. Cool, so I'll let Chanelle get on with her next question.
Well, just adding to that is on social media, there's a lot of groups, and obviously there's local grapevines. Yep. So the grapevines are pretty strict now in regards to you just posting promotions of your business, but there might be groups, and there will be certain ways that you can post content on grapevines that still promote your business, mainly just by adding value to people. If you're doing perhaps a giveaway, or you have an informative post or something like that. So there are a lot of groups and options there to look at too on Facebook. Okay, so I think I've got two. No.
Two. Yep.
Yeah, two. So I've got to be quick. So this is another really common question. So how often to post on social media? So people do get quite panicky about people seeing their stuff too much or annoying them or something like that. But as we've already sort of touched on before, people don't see much of what you post. So you need to post regularly, to even get in front of more people, because depending on where the algorithm is at, and depending on that person's usage of social media and all these different factors will determine whether they're even going to see that post. So don't worry about that. You want to be quite consistent. It's important too to remember that consistency will get you results. So doing something occasionally is not going to get you the prime result. People don't see everything, and you need relatable content. So basically you're going to be saying the same message in different ways. So there might be only 2 or 3 sort of core things that you try and get across through your social media, but you need to put it across in a different way. So for example, let's use like a Pilates instructor as an example. So if her posts were only really talking about maybe post-birth, so mothers that have had babies, that type of thing, if that's all she posted about, then that content is not going to relate to men. It's not going to relate to perhaps younger athletes that aren't interested in having children, haven't had children, and are more focused on their sports. So, but if she creates different content that is going to relate to these different people she's trying to attract into her business, that will resonate with them and grab their attention. So, you know, you might go scrolling past these posts and not see it, and then suddenly you see an image and it makes you think of something that relates to you. It's important to you, it matters to you. For example, if you're scrolling through Facebook, if he sees a Mercedes, he is going to stop and look at that car. If he sees, I don't know, a Hyundai or a Toyota, he's probably going to keep scrolling just because it matters to him. So this is again where we talk about creating content that matters to your clients and matters to your followers, and it's what people are interested in. So remember, people don't see everything you post, so you need to post a lot so that you actually are going to reach people, and you need to think about the different types of content that's going to appeal to them, because they're not going to necessarily buy into or even stop during their scrolling if it's content that doesn't relate to them. So if they're a person that you're targeting, you need to make sure the content you're putting up is of interest to them and will stop them when they're scrolling through. And just quickly, what are some things you can be doing during this lockdown period to get ahead with your social media? And this kind of ties in a little bit with your website content too. So you could consider adding another platform. So I know I spoke about at the very beginning that if you only have a limited amount of time, only focus on one platform, do it really well. However, you might find yourself with more time on your hands at the moment, and you might be able to get your head around adding another platform. So potentially you're doing Facebook and have been doing that for a while and are quite comfortable in that environment. You could start to look more into Instagram. So as Matt touched on too, YouTube has tutorials on everything. If you ever get stuck with anything in life, it's on YouTube. So, and there's just endless content for these, learning to use these different platforms as well. Otherwise, you can always reach out to either of us and we'll give you a hand. So add another platform. Use this time to create a bank of content. So you don't have to post it all up at once. You can start writing articles and save them. You can make a folder of images that you're going to want to use and save them. There's so many different things you can use with this time. You could create videos. If you've got time to do stuff that you normally don't have time to do, definitely get stuck into it now, put it aside, and then you can drip feed that content out as everything picks back up again, and potentially you have slightly less time. You also might find as you get momentum doing this, you'll find it easier going forward too. Sometimes it's just getting that ball rolling. You could consider creating a group on Facebook. So depending on the sort of industry you're in, creating a group could be really valuable. For ICE Marketing, I have a group that has clients and colleagues in. And on that, we put up some different content to what goes up on a general social media. We try and add a lot of value in that group. So the point is that people enjoy being in that group. They feel like because they're a part of it, they're part of something a bit exclusive, something a bit special. So it all will be different based on what industry or what type of business you have. But a group can be a really, really good way of creating an exclusive connection with your followers. Chase up testimonials. So spend this time. Other people hopefully have more time too to be doing things that they usually don't have time for. So chase up testimonials, bank them, put them on your website, put them on your social media, drip feed them out, just gather them up. So try and get images. So if you do physical work, for example, go back to the building thing, get as many testimonials as you can with photos of the product finished. Even better, start to finish, or before, after. Those sorts of images and content goes really, really well. So again, spend the time, chase it up, bank that content. You can also find new groups to follow and join on social media. So look for areas where you could collaborate with people, where you can cross-purpose information, where you could potentially reach other clients. And you can also learn new skills. So there are a lot of different apps.
That tool, the one you used today.
So there's apps, there's things like canva.com, so you can edit photos. You don't really need to know a heck of a lot about graphic design anymore to create some really cool posts and content. I just found such a cool app today. It's called Instance. So I'll put it in here in the chat. And it's really easy to make really cool posts on your phone with that and just post them directly through. So the platforms and apps that are available will save you so much time and make it much easier for you to create interesting content and not have to outsource, not have to pay for a graphic designer, not have to pay for a social media manager. And now that you've got that little bit of extra time during lockdown, you can get your head around using these different apps and start using them for your content. So we'll post a few things through on the chat. And if you have any other questions or want to know anything more about any of the content we've touched on today, then do reach out. Are we going to answer any of the...
Yeah, so look, thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found some value out of that. Obviously, we're just a few minutes before 5, so totally understand if you've got to leave. Thanks for watching. We'll go through some questions, so feel free to stick around if you do have any questions. Additionally, just click on the Q&A or even just post them in the chat if you like, and we'll just start to go through those now. So should we start on the Q&A?
Yeah.
And that one's cool. So Katrina said, for SEO, is there anything important with picture file names? Should they be descriptive, etc.? And can you add alt tags later once the website is built? Simple answer is, from my experience, I haven't had much SEO benefit that I've seen with file names, but I have read on different resources that it can be beneficial. But again, it's just a little piece of the puzzle that helps in the grand scheme of things. So yes, ideally a file name that's descriptive, like picture of house.jpg, rather than IMG001, which your digital camera normally takes. So from Ali, is a small video link which could include info on your business a good idea to include in the website? Short answer is yes. Again, it helps. It's a visual and audible experience for someone to look at and to see you, the business owner, ideally talking about what you do. It's a lot easier to communicate and convey information through a video than it is through a website. And it also does have, again, some minor SEO benefits having video content as well as text and images on your site. Chris Deere, who might have left now. He's left. Is video footage better received if staged or more casual? I think it's a bit of either or, really.
It's both. I think it's definitely both. So possibly slightly more staged for your website, and then more casual, a mix of that and more casual for social media. But definitely it goes back to that vulnerability and relatability. You don't have to have this fancy film crew turn up to create some social media content. Just grab your phone, flick it around, just talk, just be, sort of be yourself and just put that content out there. So definitely it's definitely both, but potentially slightly more staged professional onto your website.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
social can be casual.
And then social can be more casual, but definitely utilize any more professional type stuff if you do that.
Cool.
Purpose of a hashtag, John asked.
So what's a hashtag in basic terms? Do you want to explain it or do you want me to explain it?
I see it. Basically, it's a way of searching using social. So Instagram obviously is hashtag central. People follow particular hashtags, so that when you post something that has that hashtag in it, it'll come up on that person's feed with what they're following. So it gives you the opportunity to gain new followers and to kind of tag what your content is related to, basically, isn't it?
So John Stansfield is an example here. Office interiors and workspaces. If he did a photo of, for example, a new office, he took a photo of a new office desk and a chair, his hashtags could be, well, it could be business, it could be workspaces. I guess in some cases, you're not going to have everyone subscribing to looking at those sorts of tags, but if you're using tags perhaps like business, entrepreneur, tags that are related to, I guess, somewhat to what the photos are posting.
People follow.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess a better example is normally if you're doing like stuff that people are really engaged with, it's like puppies. You might have a hashtag puppy, hashtag Doberman, hashtag bulldog, whatever.
It's dogs of Insta.
Dogs of Insta, yeah, okay. Or cute. You know, people subscribe to those tags. It just depends what sort of industry you're in and what you're selling, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that kind of summarizes hashtags.
How do you add this cookie and that was from, Angie. I imagine, Angie and Gary. How do you add this cookie and what is the cost involved? So adding the cookie, it's a little bit of a process. You can do all of this yourself, but using YouTube videos, but you've still got to have a bit of competency to set it up. So usually we do it for you, but you set up through Facebook a pixel or a cookie. There's code. The code goes into your website behind the scenes, and that then when someone visits your website, the code triggers and tells Facebook, oh, this guy's been to this website. So when this website owner wants to advertise with us, I know that he's in the pot. We're going to show ads to him. Costs involved, if you normally set that up, obviously yourself, it would take quite a few hours. Normally we charge around $400-ish to set that up. And then you've got to pay a monthly sort of fee for the advertising itself, which could be $50 to $200 a month on the higher side. So Chanelle can answer this one from John again. Should written content
be professionally written? Again, it's a bit of both. I think if you're talking for websites, Matt has copywriters, and obviously they're trained in SEO, and that the quality of what they put across, and I guess how succinct they put it across and how convincing the words they're putting across will be a lot better than someone just sort of having a crack at writing it. So I think when it comes down to you change, come in here if I'm wrong, but when it comes down to web design, I think it's quite important that you're either quite skilled at writing or you have a copywriter look after that for you. I think when it comes to your social media content, for the most part, no, it should be you, or obviously some people have social media managers, but it's not the end of the world if there's a little grammar mistake or a little thing here and there. If you're doing your own stuff, again, the most important thing is that you're putting stuff out there. And obviously, it's not going to be full of spelling errors or completely illegible, but it's got to be, you don't have to panic too much, I think, about the written content. And the thing is, if all of you with your businesses, you've got so much knowledge within the industry, you just need to get that across.
That's right.
And how necessarily, if you've written it perfectly like a copywriter, I don't think it matters so much.
No, that's right. So another question from John. John's on fire this afternoon. Is Yellow Pages worthwhile these days? And he's referring to Yellow Pages online. At the end of the day, I think it's a bit of I wouldn't personally do it, but I still don't like just closing options down without trying them. So around 80% of people, it's probably a higher number now, I haven't seen it in a few years, but 81% of people use the internet as use Google search engines as their first port of call. So you've got the 19% left over who might be on Yellow Pages, Facebook, everything else. So it depends what it costs really. It used to be very expensive to advertise on Yellow Pages, but I do know it is cheaper now. So it's all sort of trying to figure out what's going to give you the best return on that advertising spend.
A couple of others. So Maria asked whether there's any point putting hashtags on Facebook posts. There is, because that does cross over, and people do search that through Facebook as well. So yes, there is. And a lot of people do sort of cross post as well. So if they post on Instagram, they'll post it directly into Facebook, which will obviously pull those hashtags with it. So yes, but it's also not, you don't need to panic about it if you're not, and it's not the same. Whereas Instagram, it's basically, it's bad form not to put hashtags on your posts, and you need a good chunk of them. You're sort of looking at 10 to 15 Whereas Facebook, you know, you post your text, you post image. Facebook, which we haven't touched on, but really try and avoid just posting text. Make sure you've got an image on there or a video. Try not to just have text. It can be really easily overlooked. So yes, if they end up on Facebook, that's fine, but you don't sort of have to actively go for it. But Instagram 100% must have its hashtags. And Katrina's just made a really good point of, so she uses Grammarly, which is a Chrome extension. She says she has crap grammar and spelling, and it saves her butt all the time. So that's a really good point. If you do struggle a lot with your writing, then absolutely that's a great idea, using those tools. Basically, in this technology world we live in now, there is an app or a tutorial or for everything.
That's right.
Anything that you're slightly weak in, you can find something that you can tack on to what you do or what you use that'll make it better. So yeah,
Grammarly is a good idea. I think they've got a free and a paid version, if I remember correct. But yeah, so I think that's all our questions for this afternoon. So is there anything else you'd like to add, Chanelle?
No. I think we'll
wrap it up. Yeah. We'll
obviously we've only really scratched the surface with a lot of areas of this.
Yeah.
So we understand that it's possibly left more questions than answers in some cases, but hopefully it's given you some value and something to work on for the rest of this lockdown period, however long it is.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say one thing is just if you've got lots of notes or lots of takeaways, structure it out and go, I'm just going to do one thing this week or one thing a day even, rather than going, what do I start with? Just break it down into steps over the next couple of weeks and just implement one thing a day, even if it's just very simple.
Yeah.
But if there's any feedback you can give us, that'd be great. Good, bad. Obviously, we want to know if we've done good, we've answered the questions. If you've got other questions, feel free to ask them later, and we'll probably run another one shortly to make use of the Zoom subscription I've purchased. And we'll also put this recording, I imagine, on Facebook and stuff, so you can rewatch it again. But appreciate you guys sticking around. Hope you found at least one valuable takeaway from it. Thanks to Chanelle for preparing this with me, and thanks to myself, if she can say that.
Yes, thank you, Matthew.
No. Thanks. So and thanks to you guys mainly, obviously, for watching, because
thank you. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. So thank you.
Cool. So have a good rest of your evening, guys. Hope your families and friends are safe. And we'll talk again soon, and we'll wrap that up there. Cheers. We'll put it on mute down the corner there.
Right.